watching. I want to bring you another build that I've been playing. It's a Lucky Block, triple Lucky Block Gladiator Spark using the Azadi Crest Lacquered Buckler. Your lucky or unlucky effects, use the best or worst from 3 rolls instead of 2. So we have Lucky Block with our Merc, we have Lucky Damage. So everything is rolled 3 times and they use the best. I'm going to start with the gear and the gems that are inside gear. First we're using a Bottom Crest for the 50% increased global critical strike chance, and then we got a fractured level of all lightning skill gems. We used Essence of Woe for the spell damage and hit that until we hit lightning damage to spells, and then we multi-modded cast speed and crit strike multiplier. Helmet, or in there we're using Arcane Fire, Righteous Devotion for the 25% more cast speed, faster casting, linked to Frostbrink Wintry Blast. Next we are using the Devouring Diadem. We're using this for the 25% increased reservation efficiency, and then also we get Eldritch Battery. And then we also have a 10% chance for Energy Shield recharge to start when we use a skill. And then we unveiled Socket AoE gems, so we put all of our auras in here. So we're using Vitality, level 17 Vitality, level 21 Haste, level 21 Purity of Elements, and Tempest Shield 21. Doesn't have the AoE tag, so we don't get the bonus levels, but we're using Tempest Shield for the chance to block spell damage, Purity of Elements for additional elemental resistances, and also it makes us ailment immune, so no free shock ignite. And then we're using Haste for the increased cast speed and movement speed, Vitality obviously for life regen. And the shield, we are using a automation linked to Convocation because we're using a Animate Guardian, and we're using Oracle Call as well. Less physical damage taken per endurance charge, or taken per endurance charge removed when we cast that. So we lose our endurance charge, and then we take we get 3, so 45% physical damage, less physical damage taken per endurance charge. In the boots, we're also using a Replica Dragon Fang Flight for the +3 level to Spark Gems, elemental resistances, and then also increased reservation efficiency of skills. We're using the Gifts from Above Diamond Ring for a ton of crit strike chance. We also use crit strike catalyst to bring that up even more. And then we also get a chance to block attack damage while we are on consecrated ground, and then we trigger consecrated level 10 consecrated when we deal a critical strike. Body armor. We're using a Fractured Life body armor. We crafted with Essence of Envy until we hit 2 resistance we needed. We ended up getting T1 and T2 respectively for cold and fire. And then we hit increased armor and energy shield, and then we crafted on life and mana. Reason being is because we want as much energy shield as possible. Right now we have 835, so we can cast our skills. In the chest we have our Spark, which is a level 25 from the +4 levels, 3 from the Replica Dragon's Flying Flight, and then 1 from the Dagger. We're linking that to pinpoint support to give us intensity. We'll fire 3 less. We're gonna fire 3 additional projectiles because we are supported by pinpoint, but each level intensity we lose 1. So we're using the Masteries, we give +1 level of intensity, and it is also removing 1. So instead of 11 we're getting 10, but we get 20% more damage with hit per intensity. And then skill gems are increased projectile damage, and actually no, you get just intensity, 20% more damage with hits per intensity. We're using increased critical damage support, obviously for the crit strike multiplier. Spell echo support, so that way it goes an additional time, and then we get increased cast speed and increased spell damage. We're using a cruelty support. This is a flex spot depending on if the map just feels a little weird with the way we're spending mana. We swap that in for inspiration support to lower the mana cost of our skills. And then we're using more duration so our sparks stay out longer. Right now, without inspiration, we're at 96 mana. If we pop inspiration in, we go down to 47 mana. And our DPS goes to 100, 110, to 136. The other ring spot, we got a fractured intelligence ring to make sure we are at our intelligence requirements. Use the essence of spite, I think that is, for the crit strike multi until we got a resistance that we needed. We ended up hitting T2 chaos res, and then we also hit a T1 life, so we called it good. Crafted on non-channeling skills, have -7 mana cost to help with our mana a little bit. Boots, we have wavered scale and boots. We make sure we got fractured strength, so we can again make sure we're at our strength requirement for the build. We crafted these with MV essences again until we hit another resistance that we needed. We ended up with T1 cold, and then we locks up as is Veiled Chaos, hit the increased movement speed and chance to gain onslaught, and then we exalt slammed into life, surprisingly, T1 life, and we crafted on increased armor evasion, called it a day. In the boots, we have minion life support, meat shield for a chance to our minion to taunt, elemental army support for additional elemental resistances for our Animate Guardian, and then we have our Animate Guardian himself. On our Animate Guardian, we put a Kingmaker for the fortification, and Calling Strike we put on Garb of the Ephemeral, so our movement speed cannot be modified below base value. We put on the what gloves are those? They were. So yeah, I wish we could look at the gloves that our guys have on. It was these southbound gloves for the increased maximum life for him, and then we have the Windscream boots for an additional curse. We can change the boots, maybe put on Legacy of Fury for Scorch, but we're not cursing, so it doesn't really make a difference. I kind of looked at Gazzy's right up in PoE Vault to figure out what I needed to put on, what was the best to put on the Animate Guardian. And we also have Leer Cast for the increased damage. Belt, right now I'm using a Headhunter because I've been playing with, I've wanted to play with Headhunter, and we're doing the Abyss strat, so Headhunter is actually pretty fun. We swap that out for Mage Blood when we're doing other content, or if I'm just sick of Headhunter at the time. Gloves, we got Fractured Life gloves. Crafted these with Essence of Envy again until we hit a tier 1 resistance. We ended up getting increased rarity of items, so we called it good. And then we used Eldritch Chaos until we got increased armor and evasion, and then craft on damage while leeching. I'm probably going to change this to projectile speed and projectile damage for to squeeze a little more damage. And we're doing chance to unnerve enemies, so we take increased spell damage, and then lightning damage leech to life to help out with the survivability of the build, on top of it being 98% block. The implicits for the boots are increased life regeneration rate and action speed, so movement speed, cast speed, attack speed, all that good stuff. Implicits for the chest, chance to block attack damage, and increased effective non-curse auras for our skills. That's it from the gear. We're using a Oriat's End bismuth flask, so we have explode on the build. A diamond flask, silver flask for onslaught, diamond for critical strike chance, and then we're using a bottle of faith sulfur flask for consecrated ground and critical strike chance against enemies on consecrated ground. And then enemies are also going to get increased 8% damage to them taken. Passive skills, we're using, so this mastery is a flex mastery, depending on what we're doing. Right now, because we're running the Headhunter, we're putting this mastery in for 30% chance to avoid being stunned while holding a shield. So with the flask up, we're at 85% chance to avoid being stunned. The other mastery you're using is the block mastery for 1% chance to block spell damage per 5% chance to block attack damage. So we have a lot of overcapped attack damage block. We're using the projectile mastery for more projectile speed, and then the mark mastery for chance to gain frenzy charge when we hit a marked enemy. We're also using duration mastery. We went up this way because we're using a unnatural instinct. We end up getting 5%. I think it's worth it because we get 10% more skill effect duration. We don't get anything here, and then we're getting 5% reduced skill effect duration, but debuffs expire on us 15% faster. So right now we are at minus 5% skill effect duration, but with these 10%, we end up being up 15, which I think is good. We don't get anything for these two, which is fine. And then we're also using a Light of Meaning for increased lightning damage. So all of this now becomes lightning damage, but we get these 3 nodes that are 3% chance to block attack damage while dual wielding or holding a shield, plus 6% lightning damage. And then we get some projectile speed here, and then movement speed in these. This attack speed doesn't do anything, but we get another 5 dexterity and lightning resistance. We're using the Caster Mastery for chance to open nearby chests when we cast a spell. We're using this when we do, because we're doing Abyss. And then we're also using the Casting Mastery here for intensity. So we're using this, coming down here, grabbing all this block spell damage while holding a shield. And then we're grabbing +1 to maximum intensity. So we get 4 intensity total. Increased cast speed here, life, and then our jewels look a lot like this. We're getting increased cast speed with lightning spells, crit strike multiplier. This one's not the greatest, but we have corrupted blood immunity. Wow, that's why we got it. I went for a lot of jewels that are like this, that have fractured crit strike multiplier, and then harvest reforged crit. We had global crit on here, chance to block spell damage and projectile damage. But what you can do is you can pull your POB, and if you go to your configurations, or no, items, trade for these items, you hit, let's just say we go to socket 1, right? You hit execute, and it's going to generate a trade link for you. Control click it, it's going to bring it up, and it brings up what would be best for that slot. So this one would give us a little more survivability, max fire res, increased life, and a chance to block spell damage while holding a shield. So you can kind of play around with that. I think, honestly, because I've re-recorded this a couple times. So I did that before and put a gem in there, and that's not the right gem. So now let's move on to the Merc. Merc, we're using 2 Convoking Wands that have Wrath, has increased aura effect. Do not buy these from the trade site. We can bring up the trade site again. Clear. Aura effect, let's go 35 on a wand. Search. 3 devs for these. Now if we go to the Convoking Wands, just to check to make sure there's not anything else, there are 4 divs here. Now if you just go with Crusader Influence, search, we want it to be rare. You can get them for 20C. I like to search by same day. Don't get any of these. Go here, search by chaos. You can kind of get them for like 100C. You buy your wand there, and then buy yourself some resonators and bound fossils. I hit those within like 5 or 6 on each of those wands. You can buy like 30 resonators, single sockets for like 40 chaos. Let's check, actually, or let's check divines. If we go to delve, you can get almost 50 of them for a div. And then if you go into the bound fossils, you can get roughly 40 of them. So you should be able to hit for 2 divs, make both of your wands for, let's say, roughly 200C and 2 divines. So you're looking at roughly 3 divs for 2 wands instead of spending 8 divs for 2 wands. Save yourself some money. They're very easy to hit. We are using the Blood Pierce Reaper's helmet for the nearby monsters have at least 8% life reserved. Perkle's Toe for the damaged nearby allies damage hits is lucky, and then lightning damage hitting you is lucky, which is fine. But the main note is nearby enemies damage is lucky. We're also using the Influence Anoint for increased effect of our auras. And then I wanted to play with Doriani's, so we're using the Doriani tech, stacking minus lightning resistance on both of our rings. We're doing this because I don't know if Mercs are going to go in the game next patch, and I would like to play with this before everything goes away. We're also using an Immortal Flesh for the life regeneration rate, and then minus 15 to elemental resistances. Right now our Mercenary is at minus 93 lightning resistance, so our enemies will have minus 193 lightning resistance. For the gloves and boots, we started out with a fractured life regeneration per second. It gives our Mercenary, where is it at here, 703 life regen per second. Should be enough to keep him alive in most situations. He doesn't usually die. We crafted both of these of Essences of Envy until we hit a resistance. And then I put Brittle Ground on these with increased life regen rate. These we hit lightning damage, leeched as life because our Absolution is doing lightning damage. Again, we crafted these with Essences of Envy until we hit a resistance that we wanted, and then we ended up getting T1 or T2 life on here. So we increased our armor and energy shield, and then also life. We hit mana on there, which is not very good, but it is what it is. It's just Merc gear. And then we made sure we got the Wrath and Zealotry Mercenary, because we are using a Watcher's Eye that has increased critical strike chance against enemy on unconsecrated ground when affected by Zealotry, and then increased critical strike chance while affected by Wrath. We're also using a third mod here for Vitality, for damage leeched as life while affected by Vitality. So it's just damage, not spell damage, anything else, it's just damage. The large cluster we're using is Burden Projection, Conjured Wall, and Essence Rush. Essence Rush is increased damage while leeching energy shield, spell damage, leeches energy shield, and increased attack and cast speed while leeching energy shield. We're always leeching, so... and then we're also using a Conjured Wall for the spell damage, and then chance to block spell damage if we cast a spell recently. We're always casting, so we're always casting recently. Medium clusters, we are using Eye to Eye and Repeater for projectile damage on both of these. This one I hit projectile speed and elemental resistance. This one was all attributes and strength. These I actually took over from the Spectral Shield Throw build that this was beforehand. That's why we're at level 100. And then we tattooed all of these increased projectile speed notes. That's really all for the build. We're constantly casting. We filled the screen up with Spark. As you've seen in the highlights, we threw in some mapping, and then we threw in a couple of the new boss kills. I'm going to have the POB will be linked in the description. Also, I'm going to put the Mercenary POB in there as well, so that way you can put and configure your calculations and see where your damage is as well. Yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, shout out to GamerBino. This came from his 10 Divine build challenge. So when I was looking for, like I said, when I was looking for this, for a build to play that was Lucky Block, this is what I found when I just searched up, and yeah, very fun, cool build, very interesting. I think this is probably my last build of the league, and we'll use this to farm up a couple of readers and try to make something really cool out of it. Appreciate you stopping by. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and do all that stuff if you can. It really does go a long way to help the YouTube robot push the video out to everybody. Can't thank you guys enough for watching and supporting the content.